Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Moore. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, the listeners, we asked them for questions and they came through to a crazy degree. We appreciate it. We're glad we have a lot to talk about this week. We were going to have a lot to talk about it this week anyway, but we appreciate knowing what you guys want to talk about so then that we can talk about it because we don't talk just to hear ourselves talk, no matter what my wife may think. So we're here to talk for you guys. So it helps us to know what you want us to talk about. These listener questions. All right, we'll get to it. All right, yeah, fine. Don't ask how I'm doing next time, jerk. All right, from Chip Roush. Would you rather beat Michigan but not win the national championship, or repeat 2024 with a loss in Ann Arbor but back-to-back championships? Which do you think Coach Day would prefer? As for me, it won't shut up the trolls, but I want that streak ended. All right, Tony, you have conducted some extremely scientific research on the world's most scientific platform, Twitter.com. What have the masses said?
Isn't that what Stuart Mandel said at like Big Ten Media Days or something, where he's like, I've done some research, and was it Tony Petiti's like, what research? I put a poll on Twitter. So
yeah. Well,
yes,
I don't want to say anything too hateful, so I'm just going to let you continue. Go ahead, Stu.
I did. I put a poll on Twitter and I asked, this is a question I received from a Buckeye fan for Buckeye fans. So don't blame me. Would you rather lose to Michigan this weekend and repeat as national champs, or beat Michigan and not win a national championship? And Tom, with over 400 votes after 2 hours, I'm going to let you take a guess. I need you to be within, say, 5 points of this.
All right. So I think the objectively correct answer is win the national championship. I think that's the objectively correct answer here. If you win back-to-back national championships, that's something that almost no one has done in college football. You become part of the top tier of the sport. Do you remember if Georgia lost any games during the regular seasons during their back-to-back? You have no idea. It's fine. So that, I think, is the objectively correct answer. That being said, I also know what week it is, and I know what this week does to people's emotions. So I'm going to guess that 63% of Ohio State fans said they would rather beat Michigan, and 37% said they would rather win the national championship.
Tom, you've got the percentages correct. You've got the scenarios wrong.
Really? Interesting.
Really. I think...
Okay. All right. Frankly, I think, let's be clear, nailing the exact percentages is much more impressive. I hit a 1 in 100 shot there and, a 1 in 2 shot of the other one. So really, I did the hard part. You're welcome, America.
So yeah, 63.8% said they'd rather lose to Michigan and win a national championship. And I think based on their experience last year, and hey, winning the national championship is pretty cool. And wouldn't that be cool to do it again? It takes the sting out of certainly losing to Michigan. And there's always a sting for not winning a national championship as well. So that's also something to consider. And I also think maybe there's some point to it where, losing to Michigan and still winning the national championship irks Michigan fans and irks Michigan. So it's almost like it's the better scenario. What'd you think? I'm not going to go that far, but to the point of the question here at the end, then, which do you think Coach Day would prefer? As for me, it won't shut up the trolls, but I want that streak ended. If it doesn't shut up the trolls, then what does it matter? If it won't shut up the trolls, then go win a national championship. That's how I would view it.
Well, I think if you lose to Michigan, you still have a chance to end the season on a high note. We just saw that, right? The 1996 season, even before you had the 12-team playoff, 1996 season, Ohio State loses to Michigan. That's still, it's the year they lost to Michigan, but it's also the year they beat Arizona State in the Rose Bowl. You can sort of end on a high note there. Last year, the confetti's falling in Atlanta, and only the most miserable 0.1% of Ohio State fans were still going, well, what, they lost to Michigan. Like, at that point, the trophy is shiny. They still have a celebration in the horseshoe. You're still, you leave the Michigan game out of the season-ending national championship highlight reel. It's fine. Like, it's been done before. And the Michigan people who was it? I think it was Derek Moore at Big Ten Media Days, basically said, we know it's not a real national championship because they didn't beat us. And, he later, I think, said he was joking. This is not bulletin board material. But if Michigan lost to Ohio State, if Michigan had a better first 11 games and Michigan lost to Ohio State and then went on to win the national championship, 0.0 Michigan fans would be going, well, we said that Ohio State's didn't count, so therefore I'm not buying a T-shirt. Ours doesn't count either. Like, this is how you rationalize things. Ohio State last year, we have been in the locker room for the end of the Peach Bowl in 2022, the end of the Fiesta Bowl in 2019, where you're making a run at the national championship. You think you have the team to win a national championship. You have a close game against a really good opponent, and you lose, and then season's over. That's it. Drive home safe. This group of players will never be together again. You've got, it's going to be a whole new team next year, and you got it. All the stuff you did for the previous, 12 months, that's gone now, and now you got to start over. That is devastating. That is, just for the players, for the fans, for everyone. Losing to Michigan last year, yeah, people were really devastated, but then everyone took a week, and then they turned the page, and then you saw the run that they went on. So yeah, to me, this is a very clear answer. And this is not just for Ohio State. This is Michigan should want to win the national championship. Penn State, yeah. Penn State is the most irrational fan base I think there is. Like, they're just like so broken. I legitimately don't know what, Penn State, you can either win the national championship or you can beat Ohio State. I don't know what Penn State fans would say, but win the national championship is always the objectively correct answer.
Well, and since you've been talking, the number is now down to 62.9% that would rather lose to Michigan and win a national championship. There are some responses from people. Anybody picking the first option is an idiot. So there are just some people that I think they want to beat Michigan more than they actually do. Where it's like, it's my birthright to get this, and I want it because I haven't had it in a while. And I've had more national championships than Michigan wins, and that's not true, but that's, I think, the way.
Unless you're 4.
1 year, right.
Yeah.
And that's the way they're feeling right now. And I just, in reality, like, the 2016 season, was that a success? I mean, sure, but how do you remember it? You remember it for the Michigan win, and, well, we try not to think about that shutout against Clemson.
Right, exactly. Yeah. If you're voting for, you'd rather have the Michigan win, then Saturday at 4:00, you are locking yourself into, this is a successful season. I am going to be very happy with this season no matter what. And then if they lose by 5 touchdowns to Indiana in Indianapolis, you got to go, well, they beat Michigan. It's fine. Like, I understand that Ohio State fans are going to be happy if they beat Michigan. I've also been around Ohio State fans long enough to know that the joy of beating Michigan, like, Ohio State, this is true, I think, for just about every rivalry. The pain of losing is worse than the joy of winning. Like, you remember the losses more than you remember the wins. Like, the average Ohio State fan, what do you remember about the 2009 Ohio State-Michigan game? Like, you probably remember a couple plays, and that's it. But boy howdy, can you remember the 2011 or the 2003 or the 2021 games? Like, this is just sort of the nature of these rivalries. So, yeah, I'm I guess pleasantly surprised that enough people have the correct opinion on this. But this does not mean you're not allowed to be happy if Ohio State wins on Saturday, even if you would rather have the national championship. All right. So the next one from @Tony_Lisa13. Does Ohio State spread the field and play to their strength, or does Ryan Day stay conservative? Tony, I feel like this question is asking whether they're going to have Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. Is that, I mean, I understand the actual question and the actual subtext question, but to me, the answer is, do they have Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith?
Well, Tom, there'll be an availability report put out 2 hours before kickoff. At that time, you'll know whether they're going to spread out the Michigan defense and attack downfield or just be conservative again. I would like to remind people that some of the conservative calls last year were the nature of the field position. They were backed up, and that's what coaches do. I would also like to remind people that last year, Ohio State threw the ball 33 times and ran at 26. So it's not like this was a 2-1 run game margin. They were trying to throw the ball. Will Howard was not accurate, threw 2 interceptions. Maybe if they'd run the ball more, maybe they win this game. There's something like that where they were throwing the ball, just wasn't working, and Michigan's defense was very, very good. This year, Michigan's defense is not as good. Still pretty good. Better against the run than the pass. So if you know that Michigan's defense is, would you say much worse against the pass than the run? I think worse against the pass than the run. Let's say that.
Yes.
Worse against the pass than the run. Why would you go away from that? Why would you not take the easiest path? But again, that presumes you've got some receivers that are healthy. I think both Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are going to play. If it was last week and they're not, what would be your plan of attack?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. Because I think you're probably trying to rely on Max Clare, and you're trying to, you're trying to beat Michigan with essentially a Michigan offense where, you've got wide receivers and they're okay, but they're not Jeremiah Smith and they're not Carnell Tate. And frankly, with the wide receiver lineup that we saw last week, is Andrew Marsh the best wide receiver on the field for either team? Like, I think he really might be. So
Donovan McCulley might be 2 or 3.
Yeah, he might be 3. Yeah, I would probably have Brandon Innes ahead of Donovan McCulley probably, but and Max Clare is probably the part of that top 4 in terms of receivers on the field. But I think at that point, I'm saying, you're probably, man, and this feels like you're falling into the same trap that they did last year, where you're kind of punting and playing field position and relying on your good defense. And, I think the game plan on offense is let the freshman quarterback on the other side of the field get confused by Matt Patricia's defense and make a big mistake. And last year, Davis Warren was the just don't make a mistake, and didn't put him in a position to make a mistake. And he didn't make a mistake, and Ohio State made just enough mistakes that Michigan was able to kind of pull it out. I think that's probably the game plan without Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, is just kind of, Julian Sain is very effective. He's very accurate. I think he's going to be able to throw the ball. I think Ohio State probably they have a pretty good running game this year. It's not as good as last year's running game, but they've got a solid running game at this point. Michigan's defensive front is not quite what they were last year. I think you're really going to be balanced, and you're going to be sort of short and intermediate passes. And then you're going to try and take the top off the defense at some point, because there's an opportunity there, but that you're not going to be living downfield. It's going to be, short, or run, then pop one downfield when the safeties start creeping up.
Davis Warren threw 2 interceptions last year. Even trying to avoid the mistakes, they were still there, and they were able to basically get away with it. This year, you got to take advantage of the mistakes that Bryce Underwood gives you. But it's like, do you play to that game when you just saw what happened last year in your own stadium? That's a scenario that we don't even need to concern yourselves with, because again, at least 1 or 2 of these guys will play. And also, even if they don't, still put some receivers out there and attack downfield, because I'm telling you, we're seeing all kinds of receivers, and they don't play at Ohio State, that have beaten Jair Hill and Zeke Berry downfield. So yeah, I know Mylan Graham is inconsistent right now. Throw him out there. Can Quincy Porter get healthy? We don't know. We don't have an update on him. He's another guy that I could see doing something if he's healthy. Bryson Rogers, I'm convinced, could do something downfield against Michigan. You just got to give him a shot and take some shots.
Yep. All right. So the next one from @MillerFF. Why is my confidence for the game at an all-time low? Immediate answer, because you're not old enough to remember the 1990s. All right. Next question. Well, the actual serious answer is because Ohio State has lost 4 in a row now, and Ohio State has injuries at a couple key positions and has injuries at a couple key positions where they haven't had to deal with a lot of injuries this year. They've had pretty good injury luck throughout the year, and then all of a sudden you've got 2 of these cropping up at the same time at the same position, at a position that would probably be the single, probably one of the single biggest position groups for Ohio State to, if Ohio State's going to beat Michigan by 3 touchdowns or whatever, the path to that is Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate absolutely go off, and Julian Sayin has a 5 touchdown game. Like that's how that happens. You also, you've gone through the whole season with really no adversity whatsoever. And now it's all of a sudden like, whoa. We haven't seen this team have to deal with injuries and have to, do things against a competent opponent with less than, sort of full health. That's a big thing that is a big unanswered question right now. And, I think you can look at this team and go, yeah, the defense is doing stuff that people haven't. You keep seeing stats like no one since the 1993 Florida State Seminoles, no one since the 1987 Oklahoma Sooners has done this. And it's just like every week there's some stat like that. And I saw a post with, here's Ohio State's stat ranks on all these different defensive metrics. And it's like first. There are some seconds, couple thirds, got to work on those. But it's just, this team just, if you just sort of look at it objectively, everything about this, assuming the wide receivers play, everything about this says Ohio State should win. Everything said that last year. You remember last year. That's the answer. That is the answer to the actual answer to your question.
That's the pain. That's the pain that everybody remembers last year. It has not, even with the national championship, it's healed over, but you still see the scar. So you remember it, like you rub it and it's like, oh yes, I remember that. I know where that came from. Don't want another one of those. And so, yeah, you're going to be a little just nervous about this whole thing. Ohio State has not won this game since 2019. That's pre-COVID. That's pre-NIL. Shoot, that's almost pre-college football playoffs. Basically, it's been so long. But it's, there's several recruiting classes in a row have gone through Ohio State never having won this game. So, yeah, it's easy to be very, very concerned. And as you said, what happened last year showed that even no matter the confidence, no matter the talent edge, weird crap can happen in this game because it didn't get any weirder or crappier than that one last year. So you're just expecting more of it. And you're hoping that Ryan Day comes out of some sort of shell, is the playoff Ryan Day that lost to Georgia but went down swinging, and he's almost gets credit for a win in that game. So you want to see that same kind of aggression. Put this game in indoor stadium and you might see it, where the conditions are ideal and it's just, you're just going after each other. Outside in November in most Big Ten cities, it can turn into a rock fight. And without Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, that's probably what you're going to get. But I don't think you need to worry like that's the only way Ohio State can win this game. And I don't think Ryan Day thinks that that's the only way Ohio State can win this game. I think they've learned their lesson on we have to rush for more yards. The lesson is we just have to score more points and not make mistakes and keep Michigan out of the end zone. Keep Michigan out of the end zone. Good things should happen. If you only give up 13 points and lose this game, again, weird stuff happens.
Yeah,
and that would be the weirdest of all.
Oh, yeah. Weird stuff does happen in this series. And, Ohio State fans remember 1993 and 1995 and 1996 and, all the years that they have had the haunting losses. Michigan has 2004. They had, that was a Michigan team that was coming in really rolling and about to win the outright Big Ten championship and go to the Rose Bowl, and Ohio State was just reeling and then just lit them on fire for 4 quarters. So 2018 is another good example where Michigan came in, I think, even as a favorite in that game, and then Ohio State scored 62 points. So, you remember the ones that happened to your team more so than you remember the years where your team did it to the other team. 2001 at the time was this like ground shaking game for Ohio State fans. And, I think if you ask people to rank their favorite Ohio State wins over Michigan, that was, that's probably 8th, 9th, whatever in this century. So yeah, you lose a little bit of perspective with, it's easier to forget the good times than the bad times.
You had to pick them in 2015 at Michigan up there. They were 16-point favorites in 2013 up there. Ohio State was, and we all remember how that ended with Brady Hoke going for 2 at the end and Ohio State coming away with an interception to save the day. The 2020 game, of course. Oh no, nope. Sorry. That's
404 file not found.
But yeah, I mean, there's history behind the pain and why you are nervous about this one. But all games are different. The results may be the same at times, but have faith that your pain will, I don't know, just don't spread it onto your family. I guess I'm not here to like counsel you, but just hey, it's football. Enjoy it, and if you lose to Michigan, maybe you'll win a national championship. That's a nice little consolation prize. So, Tom, anything else? We good?
We're good.
We are good. That will do it for this one. If you want to hit the thumbs up on YouTube, we appreciate that as always. Hit the bell to be notified. Subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to the podcast, we always appreciate the 5-star rating and review on the audio side of things as well. Buckeyes tomorrow morning for Tom. Buckeye Weekly for both of us here. And, of course, you can continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Sign up. Say hello to us there on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. We'd love to talk to you there. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.